Hello everyone. Let's review shloka number 66 in Lalita Sahasranamam. Unmeśha nimiśhotpanna vipanna bhuvanāvaḻiḥ sahasraśīrśhavadanā sahasrākśhī sahasrapāt. Let's look at the meanings. The first nama is unmeśha nimiśhotpanna vipanna bhuvanāvaḻiḥ. Unmeśha means opening the eyes. Nimesha or nimisha means closing the eyes. Utpanna means to arise or to spring forth. Vipanna means to dissolve. Bhuvana is world. Avali means series. So unmesha nimishotpanna vipanna bhuvanāvaḻiḥ means with the opening and closing of her eyes, series of worlds get created and dissolved. In Saundarya Lahari, Adi Shankaracharya also references this, and he says, O daughter of king of mountains, the sages say that the world gets dissolved and created with the closing and opening of your eyes. Therefore, it must be to prevent this universe from dissolution that you don't wink and keep your eyes always open. And this is why we call the goddess Meenakshi. So, Meenakshi means one who has eyes like a fish. And one way to look at it is the shape of a fish and therefore beautiful eyes. But it is said that the fish does not have eyelids and therefore it cannot blink. So, it always keeps its eyes open. Like that, Meenakshi does not blink and always keeps her eyes open. And eyes always mean compassion. So, why is she keeping the eyes open? One, to ensure that the universe does not dissolve. Another is her compassion. She is always looking for who needs her help and who needs her protection, and therefore she does not close her eyes. Even for a second, she does not want to allow us to suffer. That's why she's constantly looking at us without blinking. And if opening the eyes equal to creation, closing the eyes equal to dissolution, then keeping the eyes is equal to sustenance or protection. So she's constantly doing that. And eyes are compassion, right? So this is why she's offering that compassion through the eyes. And also all compassion always begins with the eyes. When we see people suffering, our heart is moved and therefore we reach out to help them. So that is one thing. Whenever we reference God's eyes, what we mean is compassion. And the other way to look at it also is eyes are the lamp of the body. Eyes always show who we are. We see the eyes, we see the world through the eyes, and the eyes also show us to the world. And so the eyes of the God show the compassionate nature. So that is a very important thing about God. And she is Avyaja Karunamurti, without any distinction. She does not differentiate, and we don't even have to go to the temple or be in that particular religion. Regardless, that compassion is available for all of us, and that is always there to save us in time of need. A short story about how Meenakshi saved one of her devotees. So, when the British were ruling India, Rouse Peter was a collector of Madurai. And a lot of people believe that this is a true story. So, Peter was a very kind person and he was very tolerant of different religions. And even though he was not a practicing Hindu, he was very respectful of the religion. And the Meenakshi temple actually came under his administration. He was the collector, so he had to oversee the temple administration as well. So every day, Peter would start his day in the temple and then go finish whatever work he needed to do. And it so happened that the temple was midway between his house and office. So morning he would, ride his horse and he would go to the temple. As soon as he reaches the temple, he'll get down from his horse. He will remove his boots and carry them in his hand, and then he will remove his hat. As you all know, removing the hat is a mark of respect, and that is something that he showed to Goddess Meenakshi every day. And he was well aware that according to the Hindu religion, people do not wear footwear inside the temple. So he never walked there with the footwear, and he was also not on top of the horse. That was also considered disrespectful. So it was a mark of respect for Meenakshi that he would not, he would walk barefoot in the temple and hold his hat in his hand. He'll finish whatever work he needs to do. So, and living there in Madurai and becoming familiar with the sentiments of people, he knew Meenakshi was everybody in Madurai were devoted to Meenakshi. At the same time, Meenakshi is almost like a family member for them. She was their queen, and everybody is very attached to her. So there is both respect and affection for Meenakshi, and the same feelings he also shared. And one night, it was a very stormy night, and it was raining, and there was lightning and thunder and everything, and it had been raining for a few days continuously. Peter was sleeping in his house, and suddenly he felt like somebody was shaking him. When he opened his eyes, he saw this 3-year-old girl standing there. And she started to pull him, and it was as if she was asking him to follow her. So Peter woke up, and he didn't know anything. He just woke up from sleep, but he knew that he had to follow her. So he started walking towards her, and as he started walking towards her, this little girl started running. And so Peter ran behind her in an effort to follow her. And she kept running, and he got out of the house. He got into the street, and he had gotten further along. It was raining, and it was dark, and he was trying to just keep up with that girl. And all he could see clearly was the little girl's legs, and she was wearing anklets, the shiny ones, and then he was just following her. And after he had reached a certain distance, suddenly he lost track of her. He couldn't find her. And he was searching around for where she is. And when he turned, he realized that his house had collapsed. It was struck by thunder and lightning, and it collapsed. And especially the portion where he was lying, the bedroom was completely destroyed. And that was very shocking for him. And he realized the goddess herself had come to save him. So it is said that when the Pandya king did the yaga, the Putrakameshti yaga, she appeared as a 3-year-old girl. Again, she came as a 3-year-old girl to save Peter. And Peter truly believed it was Goddess Meenakshi. And in order to show his thankfulness and gratitude towards Meenakshi, he actually wanted to make some jewelry for her. And he asked the temple, what is it that she doesn't have? And Meenakshi has everything. At that time, the only thing she didn't have was footwear. So he made her a footwear that is fully made of gold and studded with ruby and emerald and diamond and everything. And even today, it exists in the temple. It's called as Peter Padugai. And every year there is a Chittirai Tiruvila, a Chittirai festival, and it is many days of that festival. And one of the days, Goddess Meenakshi, when she comes out, she wears this Peter Padugai. So that's one instance to show how the goddess does not blink and is constantly scanning for who needs help and comes to help. Regardless of whether we go to the temple or we pray or we chant or not, if we believe in her, if we have that faith towards her, then she always protects us. The next line, sahasraśīrshavadanā, sahasrākśhī, sahasrapāt. Sahasram, as we all know, is 1,000. In this particular case, we should look at it as thousands of. So that means infinite. Sirsha means head, Vadana means face, Sahasrākśhī, Sahasram again means infinite, Akshi means eyes. So infinite eyes. Sahasrapāt, Sahasram again is infinite, Pāt means feet. So sahasraśīrshavadanā means infinite head and face, Sahasrākśhī infinite eyes, Sahasrapāt infinite feet. So there are two ways to look at it. One way to look at it is infinite number of heads, face, eyes and feet represents her omnipresence. So that's what we were reviewing so far. Devi is present anywhere and everywhere. She can go anywhere and everywhere. And therefore, infinite eyes, face, head and feet represent her being everywhere, as if there are hundreds of feet and thousands of eyes, etc. Another way to look at it is sahasraśīrśhavadanā, sahasrākśhī, sahasrapāt. This infinite head, face, eyes and feet are nothing but denoting the manifestation of that unlimited reality into multiple forms. So that means all the head, face, eyes and feet we see in this universe, which is all of us, plus all the creation, it could be animals, etc. They are all nothing but that ultimate reality. So this actually represents the manifestation of that ultimate reality into multiple forms. So that is the Advaita Vedanta's significance. And I personally thought of it this way. The Sirsha, the head, could represent thoughts. And Vadanam, the face, represents identity. How we see ourselves and how we show ourselves to the world. Akshi, the eyes, could represent our worldview. And Path, or the feet, represents our actions. So, the infinite thoughts, we all may have different thoughts, different face, different worldview, and we may all act differently, yet we are all one and the same, and we are same as that ultimate reality. So when we explored this, we always said that ultimate reality is like the actor. An actor can play many roles. So all these infinite head, eyes, face and feet that represents a person just represents the multiple roles that the infinite reality takes. So that means the infinite reality manifests as each one of us, and those are all the different roles it is playing. But the actor is always one. So this represents the oneness among all the living things in this universe. It may have a different head, different face. That means it acts differently, it thinks differently, it sees the world differently. Yet there is an underlying oneness among everything. So that's what this line shows, and it is also the manifestation principle. One becoming many. So that's the significance of this line. A short story about Sahasrākśhī. This is a story that we have already seen before, but it seemed apt in here again. So once upon a time, there was a demon called Durgamasura. And Durgamasura, as usual, as an asura, always wanted to conquer devas. And he thought long and hard, and he realized that the power of the devas are coming from the Vedas. How is it so? So in the Vedas, God has established the roles and responsibilities for everything. So if you look at the devas, their primary responsibility is to ensure living conditions in the universe. So the conditions in the universe should be able to support life and sustain it. That is the Deva's job. That's why we have sun giving us heat and light. We have Varuna giving us the water and rain. And moon is supposed to be responsible for all the vegetation. So the food crops, etc. So like that, each Deva has a responsibility. And everything is geared towards ensuring living things can survive on the earth. So then each living thing accordingly consumes it, right? And when we consume it, what we are supposed to do is give thanks or be grateful for them. And this is why we do Nivedanam, where we announce and say, by your grace I got it, so thank you. And then we also do all these yajnas, right? Rituals where we raise a fire, and then all the Veda mantras are all said. And the Veda mantras are actually a way to say thanks, and then they actually give our thanks to the different devas. And when we do the ahuti, each deva gets a certain portion. All that is stated in the Vedas. So that's why the rituals, Vedas are extremely critical. And very similar to if you want to send money to somebody in India, we could just trigger a transfer from our bank account in US, and if you see, the transaction will happen where somebody converts that into, according to the exchange rate, into dollar into rupees, and then it will get to the right bank, and then the person in India can withdraw that money, and it'll be available as hard cash in their hands. So there is a whole process that happens. Similarly, Agni's job is to take whatever we are offering in the Ahuti, translate that into a form that's consumable by all the different devas, apportion it to the different devas, and reach it out to him. So this is the whole yajna process. And once we give all this thanks to them and Ahuti, and that gives power to the devas, and they are able to do their jobs. So this is a cycle, it keeps happening. So Durgamasura found out that the Vedas are actually laying out all these procedures, and they are helping with this cycle. So he realized if he takes the Vedas, he can take the power of the Devas. Therefore, he started to do a penance to Brahma, and it was a severe penance to Brahma for many years. Brahma was pleased with his penance, and he came and asked, "What is it that you want?" Durgamasura said, "Please give me all the 4 Vedas. From now on, I own the copyright for all the 4 Vedas. Nobody else can claim any ownership on them. And nobody can use it without my, accepting that." And so Brahma did not find any problem with it. And he said, "Okay, fine, great." And Brahma is the one who's the keeper of the Vedas. So he went ahead and gave it to Durgamasura. And as soon as Durgamasura got all the 4 Vedas, he banned everybody from using the Vedas. And so what happened, slowly as time passed, nobody was able to do Sandhya Vandanam, nobody was able to do any yajna. So the power of the devas slowly started diminishing, and as time passed, they became very weak, and therefore there was no rain, there was no food, there was no crops, and there was famine everywhere. People were hungry, and it became 100 years, and there was not a drop of rain anywhere. And now the sages started getting very concerned. The people, the devas were also very concerned. So everybody went to the Sumeru mountain, and they started praying towards Devi. And Devi had told them, "Whenever you need help, you think of me, I will come and help you." So they started praying towards Devi. And when Devi saw their plight, she felt very sorry for them, and she manifested as thousands of eyes. That's why she's called as, or hundreds of eyes. That's why she's called as Satakshi. So they started to see a form that was eyes everywhere. It was blue color eyes. And when she saw how people were suffering, she started, tears started flowing from her eyes. And the tears started flowing and flowing. For 9 nights continuously the tears were flowing. And those tears turned into rivers. And now there was water everywhere, and the earth became fertile. And once they all had water, all the people thanked her, and then they told her that they were very hungry. There was a famine, right? So there was no food. And therefore, she brought all the fruits and vegetables and herbs. So in that form, she is called as Shakambari. So Shaka is the herbs or vegetables. So she is Shakambari, and so she gave everybody food. So the immediate needs of people were taken care of at that time. They had food and water. But she had to restore the universe back to its working conditions, so that there is rain, and people are reciting the Vedas and giving thanks, and the whole cycle continues. So she sent a messenger to Durgamasura and told him that you should immediately return the Vedas back to the sages, so the universe can continue to function as it used to. But Durgamasura was arrogant and did not want to give the Vedas. In fact, he was very happy that he had made the power of Devas shrink. And so he refused, and therefore she declared war against him. And there was a terrible fight between Durgamasura and Devi. And after a long, prolonged fight, Devi was successful, and she was able to kill Durgamasura. And because she killed Durgamasura, she is also called as Durga. So she is Satakshi as the one who was moved by their plight and was compassionate and was giving them all the water that they need. And she was Shakambari as someone who took care of their hunger and gave them food and vegetables. And then she is Durga as someone who came to protect and put an end to all this misery and restored the working conditions on the earth and restored the universe so that it can function as normal. So, Shakambari festival is something that is conducted even now in Vijayawada. There is a temple of Kanaka Durga, and there every year they conduct this Shakambari festival. That's all for today. Thank you.